The Reserve Bank has left the official cash rate at 2%. SBS Finance editor Ricardo Goncalves joins us now. And Ricardo, there's still a chance we'll see another cut.
Yeah, Anton, no one really expected a move today because the RBA reduced rates last month. So the board still wants to see how that flows through to the economy. It says it's waiting on information on economic and financial conditions to see if its current policy stance is appropriate. And that may include tomorrow's economic growth report, the Greek debt negotiations, whether or not small businesses are embracing the government's tax incentives, and the next business investment report. CommSec's Savant Sebastian says another rate cut is on the cards.
The Reserve Bank's well aware that the economy remains patchy. They talked about growth remaining well below trend for the Australian economy. They talked about that lack of business investment across the economy. We saw that in last week's private investment figures, which were disappointingly weak. And no doubt, coupled with that, inflation remains well and truly low. So I think another rate cut is the most likely possibility.
Now, the RBA didn't say much about housing, except to say that prices are up strongly in Sydney, although mixed in other cities, and that it is talking to regulators to contain any potential risks in the market. Now, this is the way the Australian dollar reacted. The Aussie currently stronger against the greenback, and a little of that has to do with the better than expected trade data today. It's also firmer across the other major global currencies. To Australia's lowest paid workers now, who will receive a modest increase in pay. The Fair Work Commission has lifted the minimum wage by 2.5% to $17.29 per hour, or nearly $660 per week. It equates to a $16 weekly pay rise, but the unions wanted a $27 a week increase.
The Commission noted in their decision that average wage earnings had increased by 2.8%, and yet they chose to award a minimum wage increase of 2.5%. And we are extremely concerned that every year that gap is getting wider and wider.
Interestingly, a new survey by recruiters at Hayes reveals 65% of employees expect a pay rise of less than 3% this year, and that's about on par with the minimum wage increase. Even before today's revision, analysis by the OECD showed Australia's minimum pay rate is the best in the world when compared in US dollars and adjusted for purchasing power or cost of living. Luxembourg was ranked second. And Australia is way ahead of New Zealand, the UK and the US, and Mexico was ranked the worst. To the Australian share market now, which took a bit of a tumble. The All Ords down more than 1.5%. BHP Billiton lost 3%. The banks were down across the board. Financial services giant AMP lost ground. Myer continued to decline. In Japan, the Nikkei finished weaker. Shares on Wall Street closed higher amid mixed economic data. And on the commodity markets, gold is down while oil is up a little. And it looks like the government is making good on its promise to crack down on foreign investors illegally buying property. The ATO is investigating nearly 200 home purchases, most of them thought to be at the top end of the market. Sarah and Anton.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Ricardo.